Welcome back to another exciting performance project, albeit a small one, on the blue 7.3 Excursion. Today we are going to be removing the intake air heater and putting a delete plug in there. Now, the air intake heater lives right here. What it is it's a little resistive heater that lives right in the airstream of the air going into the engine, and during super cold starts the heater will get warm and it will help preheat the incoming air. It's supposed to stop smoke from while your engine's cold and help with warm-ups. Well, it's actually an air restriction. You'll see when it gets taken out, but if you live somewhere where it's not god-awful cold, you usually don't need it. I'm in Colorado, so it does get cold here, but I'm taking it out anyway because it's just what I want to do, because down the road when this thing gets bigger injectors and a turbo and whatnot, it will probably act as a restriction. So it's not a very complicated kit to do, so I'm going to show you all how to do it. Now here is the little plug itself. It's just a the proper size hex plug with an O-ring seal, and then it has a little plug in the middle of it for if you want to run a boost gauge at some point. And then there's this little black wire which has a resistor in it, and it will keep you from getting a check engine light when you do the heater delete. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get started. Before we start, I want to mention that there are some components that we're going to be working near that do have battery voltage in them. This heater doesn't right now, but if it's key on engine off, or if the truck was running, it would most likely have it. Now this terminal right here does. That's why it has the little rubber cap on it. So when we're working around the solenoid, just be super careful. If you're more comfortable working around electricity with the batteries disconnected, that you can go right ahead and do that. As you can see, here's the test light, and you can see it's showing battery voltage right here. So luckily the little rubber cap's on there, but you just got to be super careful and avoid hitting anything when we're over here. But like I said, if you don't like working around the the hot power, it's a good idea to take it off also and disconnect the battery. So what we're gonna do is, first I'm gonna get this little guy out of the way. This is your solenoid that actuates your turbo, and it's a 10, I think it's a 10 mil. It's either that or an 8. My luck is probably an 8. Yep, sure is. Now this doesn't necessarily have to come off, but I'm just gonna get it out of the way so you guys can kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing. Didn't have a very long drive today, but the engine's still pretty warm. This is much easier to do when the engine is not, but is what it is. Get that out of the way. Boom, you can see now. What I'm gonna do is drop that out of the way. Put that little bolt right there. Actually, I'll put it over here by my leg. This is the air intake heater control solenoid. Now, looks like a starter solenoid. When you turn the key, the power comes through here and it lights up the solenoid. Or I'm sorry, it lights up the solenoid and it lights up the heater. Now, this lug right here is the positive of the heater, and then this ring on the back right here is the negative. So we're just gonna be abandoning the negative or taking it off. I'm probably gonna just take it off and get it out of the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this nut off. I'll loosen that up. Now I already made sure that there wasn't power here. As you can see, it's not lighting up. There's no light on the test light, because otherwise if you were and you smacked that or something, it would arc. So just making sure, be safe here. Don't want any electrical arcs. Now what's nice about this is the nut is held on to the wire by these little fingers right there, so you can't drop it in the engine compartment. So now this is off. Gonna go ahead and break it loose from over here. It should be a 13, and it is. Make sure we don't drop this, and its little washer. Okay, got its nut and washer. Now pull this little guy off, leave it to the side, and pull this wire off and also set it to the side. So that guy's off. We're gonna leave the nut off for a little bit and gonna pull the insulator for the heater off, set it aside, pull the ground off, set that aside. Now you can see the heater itself. Now we're gonna take a big wrench, break it loose, and oh, didn't do it enough. That should do it. And get her out of there. Now you can see what it looks like. It's pretty dang hot because it was actually on, but it's not, you know, too big. It's about a little smaller than my thumb, but if you're working with a tube that's, you know, this big around and you have the heater sticking through the side, you know, it's significant blockage of the airflow, especially because it spans damn near the entire diameter of the pipe. So it sits in there about this. I mean, it, you know, the air goes through it, but it does block quite a bit. So, I mean, on this truck with the modifications it has right now, it's probably not, you know, that significant, but at some point, if this thing gets serious, it could very well be. All right, now I'm getting the replacement plug ready to install. Now what this is this is dielectric grease. It's for, you know, spark plugs and electrical boots and whatnot. But what I like to do is axle grease and other kind of greases will work too. But what I like to do is get any rubber O-ring. I like to coat with some kind of grease, because what will happen is the O-ring is supposed to compress as you turn it, but because you can see it's just a little bit above the flat surface. But what can happen is if you don't lube it as you turn it, the O-ring can catch and then tear, then you end up having a leak. Now, this would be a tiny little boost leak, which isn't a huge issue, but if it was on like a oil filter housing or something, that could be a big deal. So I just grease it a little bit so it'll slide down before it gets in its final place. All right, come up here, thread her in. Now I'm committing the cardinal sin here using a crescent wrench on something that's anodized aluminum, and it tends to scratch it a little bit, but I'm going to be pretty gentle with it and try not to slip the wrench. So I don't imagine it has to be very tight. That should be good, and didn't hurt it. All right, so that's in. And I'm gonna go the extra step and take that ground off because we don't need it. May as well. I mean, anything that helps clean these engine bays up, I'm not opposed to. Okay, nuts off, and ground wire is out. So go ahead and put the nut back on the stud just in case I need to bolt something down at a later date. I still have the nut. Pretty sure that's all it's ever gonna do is just be a ground for that heater I just removed, but either way, it never hurts to keep stuff in place. Okay. Now it's time for the little heater delete. Now here's the heater delete. It's just, from my understanding, it's just a resistor in here, and what it does is it keeps the check engine light from coming on. When the vehicle looks for the heater and it doesn't see it, it'll pop a light. So this is just a little resistor, and from my understanding, it just goes from this output terminal to the heater to any ground. So see if I can put it right here, but I don't know if that'll work because that's a there's rubber on there. So let's go ahead and put this back, the one that was on there. And let's see how far this will go. Where do I want to put it? Keep it out of the way. Can't put it there. Let's see. Oh, maybe there. Let's see if I can get it over here. That glow plug control module. That looks like it'll work. Shove it under there. Tighten it back up. Run it over here. Being mindful to stay out of the way of the fuel bowl, because I will need to get in there at some point. Put the washer and the nut back. There we go. All right, there's that. And that should be it. Should be all she wrote. Now I'm gonna put this guy back. And that should be the end of it. Let's see. Get you back. Yeah, I need to get a new rubber for that thing. But anyway, that's installed. Nice little heater delete and nice little plug. Now, I assume you could screw like a nitrous fogger in there or something if you wanted to, or you know, any other things. At some point, I'll probably use it as a boost gauge, but you can also get another one of these intake spiders that has or intake horns that has a couple more pores drilled in it. So anyway, that's where we're at. So this guy's done. Go ahead and make sure she fires up. And there you have it. She's up and running. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.